Fixing a no sound turn signal and upgrading to an Xtreme cluster housing. The parts list. The speaker may or may not be needed depending on the replacement cluster speaker condition. Please pause and read if you are planning on doing this full mod. Moving the previously installed scan gauge 2 out of the way. Pull fast and hard at the bottom of the bezel with both hands. Showing the no sound turn signaling. Note the beeping is the blind spot monitor warning. It is important to disconnect the battery when doing any serious electrical work. Removing the 4 screws holding in the instrument cluster. Push the release tab prior to moving the lever latch. Disassembling both instrument clusters. We start by removing 8 screws behind each cluster. Now the back black cover can come off. Next, the complete white plastic gauge assembly including the PCB cluster. This slide shows both how not to remove the gauge needles and the best way to prevent marring the gauge background surface. First, I showed a wrong way on the original cluster. Once the needles are off, the PCB cluster can be separated. Measuring the impedance of the original speaker. 58 megohms, bad. Removing the odometer stem from the original assembly. Now showing the best way, with a soft and clean material on the gauge surface. Removing the odometer stem from the Xtreme assembly, not shown. Installing the original odometer stem to the Xtreme assembly. Measuring the impedance on the speaker from the Xtreme cluster. 93 ohms, good. Using a solder sucker to remove the excess solder holding in the 2 pins of the speaker on the Xtreme cluster. And then removing the speaker. Confirming that the speaker impedance is about 100 ohms. Now removing the speaker from the original cluster PCB. Confirming that the speaker is open by measuring greater than 160 megohms. Soldering the good Xtreme speaker on the original cluster PCB. Verifying that the speaker is still good. Removing the cluster crystal from the housing since we need to install the needles back on the gauges with the crystal removed. We will also be swapping the crystals since the Xtreme crystal has orange marking paint on it from pick and pull. Installing the original cluster board into the Xtreme gauge subassembly, white plastic. And then the Xtreme housing. Then using the original back cover, no orange markings, and securing it with the 8 screws previously removed. Putting the new Xtreme cluster in the dash and reattaching the wiring harness / connector. Reconnecting the battery. Next, we will turn the ignition key to the on/run position and then back off after the test icon lights go off. This puts all the gauges at their 0/starting position. We will be doing this a few times to ensure that the installed needles are in the correct position. If not, then reattaching or adjusting them so that they are. The needles are first slightly installed, then pushed down fully once they are. Putting on the cluster crystal. First, line up the odometer stem, then the 7 attachment clips prior to pushing each attachment clip into place, securing the cluster with the 4 screws previously removed. Installing the bezel. Line up the bottom first, then pushing both lower edges in prior to pushing in the top of the bezel. Remounting the scan gauge 2. The moment of truth. We have turn indicator sound. And when it gets dark, the gauge coloring inverts. Thank you. It really helps the channel.